So I want to welcome everyone to Photoville Education 2024. This has been such a privilege to plan over the last couple of months to really look at some amazing work. And again, I just wanted to say a huge thank you to Abigail and Lacey and all of the young people that are going to be sharing their work today. And without further ado, I'll hand it over to Abigail.
Thank you, Corinne. Hi, my name is Abigail Montes, and I'm the Interim Manager of Community Partnerships at the International Center of Photography. I'm also the co-coordinator of our community partnership in the Bronx ICP at The Point. Thank you, Corinne, Sushan, Laura, Sam, and Dave, and all the folks who make Photoville Festival possible. Every year, I look forward to this magical opportunity for us to come together in community and celebrate the power of diversity in photography. We are so excited to be here today to share the work of our panelists who are all members of this year's Teen Academy Image Makers, a program that enables motivated high school students to advance their photography, writing, and public speaking skills while developing an awareness of the creative and professional possibilities in the field. It's now my pleasure to introduce my dear friend, my dearest friend, Roy Baizan, who was not only my classmate at the International Center of Photography, Documentary Practice, and Visual Journalism program, but also has been such a mainstay at ICP as faculty, ushering in an incredible, ushering in an incredible cohort over the years. You know, just thank you, as always, for supporting our young people and bringing your best self so that they can bring theirs.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yo, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Abby, for that amazing introduction. Thank you to the Photoville team for putting this beautiful event together. And thank you again, once again, to Lacey, Abby, everyone here and at ICP. So my name is Roy Baizan. I'm a Mexican photographer and I'm an arts educator. All of those things are an integral part of the practice. I am very, 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 very committed to telling the stories of my community, to organize my community, to build power within the students and their act of telling stories, and build power in the community to make changes for themselves too. But this journey for me started when I was 18 years old at one of the ICP's programs, at specifically ICP at The Point, our partnership up in Hunts Point that Abby oversees, and that I was very fortunate to be a student at and now a teacher of. And it was in that program where a teacher by the name of Guillermo Giraldo, or G, inspired me to take up a camera and to pursue it with every bit of my energy, and to be really dedicated to the act of working in community and telling their stories. Through that beautiful opportunity that was life-changing, I was able to go and become a teaching assistant, an eventual faculty member teaching the classes where I learned from, and to also be able to be a student in ICP's one-year documentary and visual journalism program, which further equips me with tools to go out and tell stories, to document the changes, and to engage community. All those opportunities were defining. Another program that helped out immensely was the Magnum Foundation's photography and photography as social justice program. Sorry about that. Which continued to sharpen my ideas, sharpen the tools at hand, and to be able to give those ideas and those opportunities back to the wonderful students here. So, because of all these experiences, we are here and we're passing those on. And I really want to take a moment here to, again, celebrate the students who have also been doing that and been very courageous and going out into their communities, into the streets, into themselves, to document and to photograph and to tell these stories. So with that being said, I'm going to introduce them one by one. First, we have Marcus Bowie, right? He's a photographer from the Bronx in New York City. For some time, he has been captivated by photography, quickly falling in love with it after taking courses in high school and at the International Center of Photography. We won the 2023 Young Arts National Competition and exhibited his work in the Megafauna Land Dwellers exhibition, a show about ecofeminism and nature conservation curated by Naomi Fisher. He loves to photograph family, street life, and nature conservation and adolescence and light. Currently, he's a high school senior completing his associate degree and a student in the ICP Teen Academy Image Makers program. He will be attending Columbia University in New York City as a class of 2028 as an intended neuroscience major. Shout out to you. Congratulations. Marcus, take it away.
Okay. I'll read the artist statement for my personal vision project as part of the ICP program. You allow people to be themselves when talking to you because you put them at ease, and everyone's favorite subject is themselves. Is it because you feel more comfortable in the shadows than in the spotlight? Do you believe that you deserve to be in the spotlight in your everyday life? This was the criticism my public speaking professor gave me when I played the role of an interviewer for an assignment. He noted my tendency to shy away from being asked questions and the sense of empowerment when I was doing the asking. And I've since found parallels between my art and myself that speak to the same sentiment. I'm a light chaser, fascinated and mesmerized by the structure of light, how it bends, its comfortable warmth, and how it intensifies the subject. Light has always been a crucial part of my photography since the beginning, playing a significant role in many of my initial projects. Over time, I also began using photography as an excuse. I, a mostly introverted and taciturn person, use photography to interact with people, take their pictures, and explore things that I would have not otherwise. Do I deserve the spotlight? Photography is as much about documenting others as it is about the artist. My photos are representative of me. They always have a sort of distance from the subject, a reflection of my introversion. Combining my love of light with photographing people, I want to show myself through shining a spotlight on others.
Absolutely stunning. We'll come back with questions after everyone's gone, but beautiful work. Up next, we have Olivia Elmore. Olivia is a 17-year-old multimedia artist and photographer. They grew up in Pennsylvania and moved to East Harlem when they were 12. During that time, they began to explore their identity as a queer person. This was a struggle for them, but through coming to terms with themselves, they found photography. And through photography, they explore their own emotions and the emotions of those around them, putting into images what people struggle to put into words. They find peace in creating handmade, collaged portraits that dig deep into our minds and emotions to find true understanding of oneself. Olivia is currently a student at the International Center of Photography's Teen Academy Image Makers program.
Hi. My project is called Getting To and Through. I'd stare at the ceiling, walls, and floor, anything but what was in front of me. I refuse to talk. I won't say yes, because yes is an admission to something being wrong, an admission to there being something we need to talk about. Words that need to crawl off of my tongue and stitch themselves together for something to change, but I don't know what letters to use to make sense of this. I believe that the first step to truly understanding anything is facing it. You cannot expect to make sense of something you ignore. When I avoided how I was feeling, I felt terrible. But now I am working towards addressing my feelings head on. We often think that by ignoring something, it'll just go away, but I think it'll always be there. I find the process of making handmade collages therapeutic, a time when I reflect on my own emotions. I want people to consider how they are feeling and what may be contributing to that, or how they get through it. I want to make our emotions visible through photographic visuals and poetry written in response to some of the amazing subjects in my artwork.
Also, absolutely beautiful work. And finally, we have Ima Valledor. Ima is a digital photographer born and raised in Queens, New York. Hronima attends Fiorella LaGuardia High School as a fine arts major. She joined the photography class there, where she worked with both analog and digital cameras. Photographing with friends and family initially, Hieronyma's work was recognized by peers, and she was hired as the official photographer for her school's events and showcases. She was later accepted in the International Center of Photography's Teen Academy Image Makers program, working toward developing a portfolio and professional network. Ima's work in editorial and documentary portraiture explores themes of femininity, friendship, and identity. She hopes to continue this art form and learn more about the world of photography and visual culture in the context of communications and marketing. Ima wishes to take all that she has learned from her experiences in the arts and use it to explore different career paths, ultimately finding something of interest that ties it all together.
So my project is called The Dragon Lady. So as a young Chinese Filipino woman, I see how demeaning stereotypes of Asian women have become normalized and have made their way into my everyday experience. The history of this objectification can be traced to the American Gold Rush when, in the mid-1800s, men from East Asia immigrated to the West Coast hoping to find a better life. Over time, they grew lonely and in need of company, and women were then shipped overseas to entertain the men who were stuck working. This made their introduction to America a sexual one. With little to no other options, working as brothels, as prostitutes, and as geishas became very common. For many men, this was their first exposure to East Asian women, thus portraying them as exotic and mysterious sexual objects. Soon, fetishizations of young Asian women in the media became circulated widely, and names like the Lotus Flower and Dragon Lady were tossed around, and they ended up sticking. Within this project, I wanted to recreate and reference old posters and images taken of East Asian women immigrating to America from the 1800s up until now. I'm interested in the aesthetic of Wong Kar-wai films and old photos of Anna May Wong, the first Asian woman to be in a Hollywood film. Documenting these tropes and dynamics, I want to play with color, texture, and lighting in an attempt to honor Asian women and talk about the important and unspoken history of the Dragon Lady and all that comes with that title.
I mean, this is all incredibly strong, complex work. I really want to kind of jump right into this by asking you all kind of very general question that I hope you can kind of illuminate your process, right? So you're all tackling very important topics, very dense topics about the self, historical kind of context. What inspired these projects? How did you come to them? Yeah, we can start there, actually.
I would say that I feel like in my family, emotions or like discussing feelings isn't always something that's prioritized. And so I feel like through my work, it's a way that I'm kind of able to address what is kind of considered like taboo. You know, it's super important to talk about how you feel, and so I kind of want to do that through my work.
Yeah, about my project, I think my work looked at not only just introversion, but also my own kind of sense of imposter syndrome regarding how I view myself and whether I feel like I have the tendency to shy away from any kind of spotlight or any kind of attention. And so when my professor did come to me and tell me about, you tend to be better when you're focusing on other people, I saw that same reflection in what photography is, because photography is all about, photographing other people. On the same side, though, the art that I make, the photos that I produce are in some ways a reflection of me, because, well, the way I photograph is the way I also carry myself. So if I take those two together, I find that photography is the only way, or the only way I've ever been able to express myself. And it's that sort of personal journey of being comfortable and recognizing that everyone deserves some sort of spotlights, everyone deserves some sort of attention. And it's all about trusting the process and being comfortable in figuring that out yourself.
That's so nice. My inspiration for this was I just want to point out I'm 16 years old and I live in New York City, one of the most diverse places in the world. And despite that, I'm still seeing these terrible dynamics in my everyday life. And so, like, that's just ridiculous and very appalling to me. And so I just wanted to make this project not to answer every question necessarily, but to just bring up that discussion and talk about it in general. And I mean, it was a little bit difficult at times, like, because I was sort of battling with not necessarily recreating these images and pushing that back onto my models, but reclaiming it and making it my own and showing the pain and emotion behind that and the truth of that they're a multi-dimensional person and it's not just how they're being portrayed.
Yo, absolutely. I feel like across all three projects, you're all seeing that there's something that's there that needs to be spoken about, either in your identity, in how you feel, or in how images have been used to objectify Asian women over the years. And you're saying these are the problems that are out there, but you recognize that, and then you go and tackle these topics. What has been the conversations you've been having with the folks you've been photographing, or even with yourselves as you navigate these projects?
Some of these conversations were really difficult in the sense that I was asking people to try to verbalize maybe something they didn't come to terms with, like within themselves. But I needed people to be able to verbalize it in some way in order to make some sort of visual representation of it. So through that, we kind of unpacked it together. It was a process with whoever I was taking a portrait of at that time.
I mean, for me, I think it was much more of a personal conversation. I remember, in the whole process of image makers, you go through so many different kind of critiques by so many different professions and fields of photography. And the main piece of feedback that I always got, and like I had to select a 15-piece body of work to get reviewed, the main piece of feedback I got was that I should do a self-portrait. And a self-portrait is so intimidating to me because it's, typically you're never the person in front of the camera, or the photographer is never the person in front of the camera. And so I remember feeling so uncomfortable and having so many different kind of drafts of how I will photograph myself. And I remember the conversation that I was having with myself was, like, do I really want to do this? And I always remember shying away and ended up not wanting to fully pursue it. And so it took a lot of time. It took a lot of self-affirming that this is necessary and this is what is needed for the project. And I think in the end, I'm very proud of the work that was produced. Yeah.
Yeah, that self-portrait is super sharp. I mean, stunning, stunning, stunning. Because I want to hear about the conversations, I just want to how did you get that light to be that way? It's a very sharp, defining light. I think just for folks that are interested in the technical also aspect of that too.
Yeah, so I don't own any kind of professional lighting or any devices at home. This was shot me crisscross applesauce in my room, with just a gray background, and the light that's being used there is my UV light that I would use for plants. So when I was setting up the light, apparently it was so heavy that it fell down, and it created that kind of that shape. And I always love photographing with some sort of geometry and how light can create rectangles or triangles, and how that can look aesthetically pleasing. So when I noticed that accident, I was like, okay, I think about my personal statement. I think about how my professor told me, you're being an empathetic listener, but when will you be able to come out of that and be the speaker yourself? So you look at where the light is being shown the best. I placed my ear there to show that, okay, that's what it means to be an empathetic listener. But on the side where my mouth is, where I speak, where you express yourself, that's being shown out. I took multiple different kinds of photographs using this kind of light, and this is the one that came out in the end.
Ima, your project is also visually stunning, rich in color and textures, just like how you intended it to be. What were those conversations, I think, with the folks that you were working and collaborating with, and then how did these visuals, decisions kind of interplay with those conversations to represent or chip away at the stereotypes that were there?
Well, I knew that I definitely needed my models to be Asian women that understood what we were trying to convey in these pictures. So I showed them some visual inspiration. I read them my main idea, and immediately it was just like, yes, I know exactly what you're talking about. I see that too. Let's do it. And I was like, okay, that's amazing. So it was really nice to work with them because we just got it, and I feel like it is like, this is my people, like this is the group that understands exactly what I'm trying to convey. So there wasn't necessarily a block in communication there, but as I was saying before, the difficulty was mainly let me not recreate this, but turn it into my own thing and show the real emotion behind it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you mentioned Wong Kar-wai as an inspiration, and I could see that. But even if you hadn't mentioned it, there's such a strong like sense of not only like texture and color, but like of self here that you're pushing through. Like, if you hadn't mentioned that, I would have never known, honestly. But because there's so much emotion that conveys it, that I wouldn't even also think about those images. You've created kind of a visual language of your own as you chip away at it.
Thank you.
Olivia, you also have a very like strong series of images that are very collaborative and I think very like intense in an emotional way. What were those? I mean, you spoke a little bit about the conversations you were having with folks trying to dig into what they were feeling and be vulnerable enough to put it out there. How did those conversations turn into the collages that were made? Because they're very beautiful, very like dynamic. Did they put those collages together? Did you put those collages together? I'd like to know about the image that came out of those conversations.
So I put these collages together, but in a lot of the collages, it's either like while we were having a conversation about their feelings, like a certain quote that stuck out to me that I would add to it, or there's one with my mom and there's like flowers around it, and that's because she had said that she feels like she feels very hopeful and she has like a growth mindset, and so through that I was thinking about flowers, and I feel like that is representative of her.
Also, I want to know, Olivia did all of that by hand. Like, we would be in class, and, like, Olivia would be cutting out, like, tiny, tiny letters. And so I had to, like, back up because I was going to knock something off the table.
Yeah, no. Yeah, I mean, if it all looks, I mean, it's very complex. It could have been Photoshop, but you did it by hand. That's incredible. I don't know.
Thank you.
Incredible. So after you've made these images, you've had these conversations, you go back home and you think about them. You know, what was left as an impact on yourself and your and the way you think about photography after these projects, after these conversations? What do you take away? And then and another question, what do you hope folks would take away from these images after they see them and they've collaborated in the making of them? What do you want them, and what have you taken away from these images?
I think before I even entered image makers at all, the preconceived idea that I had or the goal I had was to, and this was very like simple back then. It was to get better at photography, as if there was some sort of objective standard to it. But by the end, and in realizing how so many people had different projects and different perspectives on different kind of topics, it becomes less about how you photograph or what kind of photography you do. It's more about what do you want to show in your photography. And I think that's the importance of photography, and that's how I change the way I view photographs. It's more about the exposure of what you want to show. It's never only about how something is taken. And I think that's what makes a photograph a good photograph.
I feel like before entering this program or working on this project, I thought of it as photography is very like a one-man kind of thing. Like, I would take my camera and just do my thing. But now I feel such a strong sense of community in every aspect of it. It's like going into the class, like I'm talking with my peers about this and we're working on this. Or then when I set up my shoots, it's like, okay, I gotta text somebody to help assist me. I gotta get models. We're all working towards this common goal. And so you're never really alone. It's everybody is communicating. Everyone is riffing off one another to get to this end piece of work. Yeah.
I feel like kind of similar to what Ema said, that there's like a lot of collaboration happening a lot of the time, and also I'm blanking, but I feel like something I kind of always take away from photography is how everybody's work is so different in so many different ways, but like it's all connected in some way. And photography has really taught me, like has really forced me and others, I feel like especially in class when we have like critiques, to have conversations that we wouldn't have had otherwise. And it forces you to defend your work and in a way defend like your beliefs, what matters to you.
Yeah, I think because Image Makers is about a year long, right? And within that time frame, you're going in with an idea of what photography is. You're struggling through it. There's all these contradictions of maybe what you feel and what you want to see versus what ultimately comes out, and you come away with it a totally different photographer. I think there's a lot of ideas about what photography is and what it can be, but the most important thing, and something that I'm really happy that we're doing today and that you are all doing actively in your process, is that the image that you make is just the starting point for a conversation, and that those conversations ultimately kind of push us to these parts of ourselves that maybe we don't want to see, or things that we don't want to acknowledge in a greater historical context. But you're saying, hey, this has happened, we can do something about it. And we start with this representation of this idea, of this objectification, of this repressed feeling, but we can work through it together. And that's a very courageous thing to do in a world where we're kind of bombarded with images, and and the conversations around photography are about gear and not the ideas that we want to challenge. You guys are setting the pace for what photography can be in a very active community building way. So what do you hope to see, I think, for the future of your own work, or for the folks that are coming after you as photographers? What advice would you have for them, and what do you hope to see for the future of your photographic practice? I'm inspired by your work, so I'm also asking because I want to know. Yeah. It kind of is a call to action.
Yeah, okay. I think there's two things that come immediately to mind when you ask that question. And then, like, as for advice I would give to future generations of photographers, especially with how widespread phones are or cameras are in general, there's so much happening nowadays that it's so easy to just take out a phone and to photograph something. And that's why I would say always keep photographing no matter what, because even a day of not photographing, you can miss so much that is so valuable, because there's tender moments that you happen to have here, but there's also other moments elsewhere that means so much. So there's that, but I also, like you say, there's bombardment of photographs online and on social media. Never compare your photos to someone else's, because you will only see your photos. You have a unique perspective on how you see the world and how you will photograph. If you take 20 photographers and put them in one room, they're going to photograph so many different things in so many different ways. And if you compare your photographs, you're going to get so much of the same thing, and that's not what we need. We need different kinds of viewpoints and perspectives and opinions on so many different things. So those are the two advices that I would give.
Yeah, I totally agree with Marcus. I think that it's so important to have young people in the world of photography for those reasons, because it's like it's just providing a viewpoint that has yet to be seen, and we are in such a interesting time right now, and the way that we, as you were saying, photograph things on our phone, it's like we could literally take a picture at any second of any day. And so I think it's just so important for everybody to just try shooting. Like if you see something cool or you see something interesting, to take that picture, because it's nothing bad will happen. Like you will be sharing your visual, like what you are seeing in your everyday life with the world.
Yeah, just like your project's the first step is to have that conversation, and the first step before that is to go out and make the photograph. Go photograph.
Yeah, because when you keep shooting, it's like, even if you are like, oh, I don't have a deep connection to whatever, it's like the more you do it, the messages and those deeper meanings and questions that you want to answer are going to come way easier, because you will just have that practice, and it will come to you naturally, and it will just flow.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I've like spoken to some people who are interested in getting into photography, but what's kind of stopping them is like this fear of being unoriginal, which just really isn't possible. You know, you're your own person with your own thoughts and your own lived experience, and it's never the same as anybody else. So, you know, your perspective as an individual is so important, and you know, just go out there and shoot.
Absolutely. I'd like to take a moment to open up the questions to the audience. If anyone has any questions for these amazing, talented storytellers. Yeah, we'll take a question here.
The writing was super last minute. I, after kind of like looking at the photos, I wanted there to be like another element to it that kind of more directly addressed like the feelings that person was feeling. So in each of the photos, I had the person I took a portrait of basically write a poem on how they were feeling, and it was super important to me that it was in their own handwriting, and that it was, you know, it was written themselves, you know, to further represent what they're feeling.
We have a question in the back right here.
Can I be super corny and say my fellow classmates?
That's not corny at all. Not corny at all. We're here for the supportive environment. We're here for it.
Right. I mean, so I'm with these people every Wednesday, and every time I come into class, it's like I'm seeing their work progress at the same rate that mine is, and it's so cool to hear them talk about their work. Like even right now, I'm just like, wow, that's so amazing to hear the background and the emotion behind it, because it inspires me to want to create more work and put more out there, because I'm seeing how passionate they get about it, and I'm like, wow, I need to start producing some images.
No, yeah, seriously. I know so many photographers, whether they be like amateurs or hobbyists or professionals, who can just name drop so many different kind of people. Personally, I can't do that because I don't think I'm like that super versed in it. But I think I owe it a lot to my teachers and my teacher assistants and to my peers, because I remember the first day of orientation at the ICP program. The way you introduce yourself is with a name, your pronouns, and then your favorite image that you've ever taken. I remember being so much in awe at seeing the different kinds of ways people, the reasons why people have a favorite photograph, and there's always an experience tied with it. And I guess in feeling in that awe, I also felt a sort of jealousy, saying, wow, these people can take real serious photographs. And it's an environment like that where you can grow as a photographer, and you need that sort of good and positive pressure because if you don't have that, you don't have that incentive to wanting to do better. And I think I owe a lot to you guys. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely agree. The ICP environment is just phenomenal, and even like outside of class, like just ICP itself, like whether I'm waiting for class to start and speaking to some of the like older 1-year certificate students, like it's so cool because we're all kind of here on like the common ground of photography. So like no matter where we come from, kind of how old you are, we're kind of all just like kind of piggybacking off of each other with like, our photography stuff.
Yeah, just a quick question. Who was the instructor for your class in the TA? I want to give them a shout out too for being there with y'all in the journey.
Leslie.
Shout out to Leslie.
Shout out to Leslie.
But also, Kither,
Kither
Afrida,
Joseph, yes.
Lacey, Abigail, Adriel, yes, oh my gosh, Barbara, so many people.
So many folks that put
Literally
in.
everybody at ICP always coming into our classroom talking to us.
Yeah, a little shameless ICP plug, come through. Why not? No, I mean not why not. There's amazing programs, supportive environments, and testimony is here. Do we have any other questions? Oh, that's a good one. What are your daydream moments of where you'll be 5 years from now?
It's so hard to imagine myself where I would be in 5 years. But I know something that the people at ICP will always say, and it's because we talk to so many different people that are in this broad field that you call photography. No matter what you go into, you can always find some way to add photographs into no matter what kind of work you do. And if you look at my bio, I'm going to university not for photography, not for art. I'm going to university for neuroscience. And I remember I introduced this to the class once, and I got a reaction because you never really hear about neuroscience and photography in the same sentence. And I still have no idea how I will incorporate the two. But in 5 years, I do see myself wanting to find a way to incorporate the two. That's where I see myself in 5 years.
We should do a follow-up in 5 years with y'all.
Yeah. Update.
I want to see where everyone's at.
I feel like I had an idea like a year ago. Like I was like, okay, I like photography. Like let me get into that. And then I entered this program and I was like, oh, I can't just say photography. Like it could be anything. Like it could go anywhere. So I don't know. I feel like I'm in this place right now. So I'm a junior in high school, but I feel like I'm in this place right now where it's so open. Like it could really be anything. And I want to continue this, but like you mentioned in my artist bio, it's also like maybe I want to study communications, or maybe I want to explore this, or like some connection to the art world. But I don't know, like there are just so many possibilities right now, and I'm still learning about this field and all the others. So yes, we will see.
I think I still see myself doing photography, definitely still making work for myself and those around me. Maybe film as well. I really like film, and they go hand in hand in a cool way. So, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, and there's so many things y'all have done. You've kind of coordinated your shoots. You've lit the shoots. You've written. That's like a producer right there, a gaffer, set design, the whole thing. So you take those skills and you take them wherever you can. I'm also honest to say that I've been very surprised to see where I've seen ICP folks in all kinds of fields. Goes to show the kind of the nature of ICP. I'll take one last question, and we can wrap up. So the question was, because there's been 2 self-portraits in your work, do you see yourself incorporating more of self-projects in your work moving forward, basically?
I definitely feel like self-portraits are important in my work because in the way I'm kind of asking people to like have conversations with themselves, I think it's only fair that I'm having that conversation with myself too. Yeah.
I think as for me, my work doesn't necessarily always have to be about thinking about myself. This one just happened to be. But in reality, because I photograph so much of other people, photographing myself is so difficult. And because it's so difficult, I think it's something that should be faced. It's a challenge that should be tried, even if it's not necessarily something that I want to continue or something I want to pursue. It's something new to try, and I think not only will it help me be better at self-portraits, but getting better at one thing can apply to so many other things as well. And I think there's value in continuing self-portraits, even if it's not the main focus.
Yeah, I tried doing a couple self-portraits for my project, but they didn't make the cut. But I don't know. I find it kind of fun. I find all genres of photography fun. Like this year I really wanted to just experiment and try a bunch of stuff in different medias and genres because I'm really not sure and I appreciate it all. But I did definitely learn that with the shoots, I love to art direct and create a scene within my images. So we shall see.
We shall see. So on that note, any last words for the audience, for the folks that may be seeing this later on? Last piece of advice before we head out and we close this off for everyone. It could be a one-liner.
Thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you for
Take some dang pictures.
I think for me also, it's to never be afraid to show your work.
Yes. And that goes on to everyone. I'm going to close this off. Thank you all for being here, for, sitting here listening to our stories. Thank you for sharing your stories and being so courageous and vulnerable. Thank you again to the Photoville team, to ICP team. Just a reminder that everyone here has very, very, very important stories to tell too. You can go out, make your own photos, and work on your projects. You can talk to them afterwards. You can talk to us. We are here to cultivate an environment for you to go out and tell your stories and to challenge these ideas. So with that, go forth, tell your stories. All power to the people.